Hello guys, my name is Haitian, and in today's video I'm gonna cover some topics, right? So I want to make sure I cover at least a good bit of it, right? But what I'm leaning towards is body positivity, real body love, real self-esteem. And I also want to talk to you about, what else? I want to talk to you about how to not care what people think of you, right? I would like to introduce more topics, but I want to just make sure I at least cover these two so that I do not end the video and I didn't cover half the topics I said I would cover in the beginning, right? Okay, so body positivity. So the body positivity from what I'm getting from it is like it comes from self-love, but more geared towards people who might not be considered the ideal, right? Like if you're a size 22 and in New York and United States a size 8, 14, 16, even average size, you wouldn't be the ideal size. But when I'm looking at body positivity, I see it's more done towards like much BBW, big women, big beautiful women, big men. It's geared towards more people that would be considered obese to overweight to extremely obese. That's what I see it as, right? But today's video, I want to put a different spin on it, right? So not to be confused with the movement of body positivity, which encourages love for people that are overweight and to embrace your body type. I'm gonna go and give this term a generic term so that you could distinguish it from what I'm getting from body positivity and the body positivity movement, right? So I'm gonna entitle this the term body love, self-love, and love for your body, right? Okay, so I want to introduce some key points about loving your body, right? I'm gonna go a step further from the body positivity movement, right? So the first thing I want to tell you is that the one thing is that, especially this is gonna be geared towards women, but anybody that's not anyway, you could use these ideas, right? So the first thought I want to give to you for body love is to love your body at any weight it is at, right? Because I know there's some people, they do have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and until they get that resolved, their body's not gonna change, because some people have a resistance to weight loss, right? So what are you gonna do then? What would you do then if your body, it's really hard for it to lose weight, it's prone towards obesity, right? And for body love, I'm also gonna go into different races also, right? I'm gonna go a step further from just weight and weight loss goals, right? I'm gonna go on the full spectrum of loving your body, right? Loving your face, loving your body, loving your skin color, loving everything about you, right? So for body love, loving your body, one thing I have to say is, one point is acceptance, right? You see this, for instance, the way that I look right now, for the most part, I can't veer too extreme from what I look like, right? Especially if I have limited means where I cannot readily go to surgery, right? As I do, like I can't do like a $50,000 surgery. That I can't do it, and not only that, for personal reasons and for reasons to do with like apprehension, because surgery is still surgery, I would not do that, right? So what can you do if you're stuck in your body? You can't pay for surgery, you can't pay to do something where you change your whole face, right? The first thing I would have to say is accept it. acceptance, right? You have to accept the skin that you're in. And this is a journey. This is a lifelong journey, because your body's going to go through phases. It doesn't look the same all the time. This is a blessing, and at times it could seem like it's a curse, right? So one thing I would like to say is that accept your body as is, right? Accept your body as it is. So you're size 24. You're size 24 and you don't like your body, right? Let's go with that. You're size 24 and you don't really like your body, right? How would you then begin to cultivate self-love, body love? Well, the first thing is that if you're paying attention to programming on TV, if you're paying attention to many outside programs, you will feel like you will hate yourself. Basically, in most societies, if you pay attention to what's the ideal body shape, you will think, I am a freak of nature, right? Because the ideal body shape, the ideal look is usually more of a white person who is either, it could be tall depending if they're a model, maybe blonde, maybe it could be short, but they have to have a certain look. That would be the ideal look, right? Somebody that has blue, for the most part, something like that, right? So what would you do if you don't look nothing like that? If you don't look nothing like somebody which is the ideal, if you don't even look like Kim Kardashian, as many people do not look like Kim Kardashian. They do not have that perfect type of stacked hourglass shape with that face, right? Those features. So what would you then begin to do? Do you resolve to go into a life where you dislike and heavily hate yourself because you do not resemble the ideal, right? So now I'm gonna give you some tips, and what I'm gonna give you is that I'm gonna allow you to work with these thoughts, these points of view, because to tell you the truth, a majority of people do not look like the ideal, you know. A lot of people, they're not white women who are tall, like 6 feet, or even like higher like Kim Kardashian, or a little bit lower like Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure she's that tall. A lot of people don't have that hair type. A lot of people don't have that body type, that stacked hourglass shape. So what will you then do? So I'm going to use myself as an example so that you could get the gist of what I mean. Okay? So when you do not look like Kim Kardashian, it is imperative that you begin to, if you're not secure enough to look at those images and be like, okay, she's beautiful, but I'm also gorgeous myself, then I would begin to tell you to look into cinema that has people that look a lot like you, right? For instance, when I was much younger, I was used to pay attention to American cinema. And when you're paying attention to American cinema, they have an ideal, which is like a white woman who is like blonde, like that blonde type, right? Those tall women, right? Or this slim, very slim woman. Or if they're heavy, they're thick in all the right places, right? If you're looking at me, I am not a white woman, right? I'm a black woman. I'm a Haitian woman, right? And I'm average height. I'm not 6 feet, and I'm not thin. I'm very thick to average to thicker, right? And I'm going to use myself to show you how you could use this to your advantage, right? So a lot of times when we don't look like the ideal, you would begin to feel inadequate, right? But after high school, I was introduced to African cinema, particularly Nigerian Nollywood cinema and Ghanaian cinema, Gollywood, right? And what it did for me is it opened my eyes to a lot of different looks of beauty that I had never seen before. For instance, one of the actresses whose name is Heyne, who I absolutely love. I do get some people say that I kind of take after her. Is that Inyobong Edo Ekim, she is not slim by any means. Like, she's not real thin. She's thick. She has curves. She's not your typical hourglass figure. But if you get to watching these African women, what you will see is that they ooze self-love, they ooze confidence, they ooze self-esteem and high self-worth. And if you don't look like a particular ideal, see if you can find a cinema that looks towards what you look like, right? Or like a type of genre that fits something that you look like, right? Get a role model, right? For me, that's Inyobong Edo Ekim. For me, it's most of all the African actresses, because when I'm looking at them, what I see imperfections. I see natural beauty. Even when they look really like hourglass, there's something about their look, it seems very attainable and very natural, even if they're drop dead gorgeous, right? Like, I could relate to it, right? Whereas there's certain industries where the women, they never come in higher than a size 4. They have veneered teeth, they have bone straight hair, because it's constantly being like bone straight, you know, it's constantly being teased. So those beauty symbols would look much harder to attain by a woman who's looking up at somebody that looks like that. For example, you can say Bollywood is like that, Hollywood is like that. Certain Korean cultures are kind of like that. Aspects of Korean culture is also like this, right? Where it seems like the beauty is very perfectionist. It's almost unattainable, right? So what you would begin to do is expose yourself to other cinemas. Like, for instance, if you're an average weight woman, then you would look at cinema with average weight women who are very comfortable in what they look like, right? Or like, if you're a black woman, look at African cinema. Look at cinema that gravitates to people that look a little bit more like you, doing things where they're oozing confidence, right? So that would begin to see, okay, she's a size 15, a size 18, size 20, but this girl has unbelievable confidence, right? It inspires you, right? It inspires you to see, look, I'm not a size 0, but look at this woman. She's plus size and she really enjoys the way that she looks, right? So look at a role model, even in real life if you can, or in cinema, or some type of role model in your life that oozes confidence, and they look a lot like you, or even if they look different, they inspire you to see that uniqueness is something to be admired, right? Okay, so the second thing I would like to say is that, and this will go to the not caring what other people think. When you start to see, for instance, that the way that you are, the way that you look, it's just unique, and it's not different in a bad way, it's different in a good way, you begin to appreciate rather than say, look, I look different, you know, I don't look like the status quo, therefore I'm not I'm not beautiful, right? There are plenty of things, they're different, but because they're different, it's what sets them apart. And I feel that in advertising, they try to get everyone to group in each other in one direction, right? But think about it this way. If there are 15 women and they're all average weight, they all look like Kim Kardashian, and then there's one woman and she's either Asian or she's black or she's Spanish, and she has curly hair, or she might have natural black hair, or she might have like different Asian features. For American culture, you would see this, oh, she stands out, she's not beautiful, right? But if you really look at it, if you have 12 diamonds, right, 12 clear white diamonds, and you have one blue sapphire, or you have one gorgeous emerald, it's not that it wouldn't be that it doesn't look good. It would be that it's just set apart. It's different, right? It's unique. Some people would even gravitate towards the emerald or the sapphire, the blue sapphire, or even the ruby or the black gemstone, because it looks different and it's set apart, you know. So being unique, a lot of times it gets a bad rap. I look unique, therefore I'm not the status quo, therefore I'm not beautiful, right? But let me get you to look at it this way, right? In a sea of women that have all hourglass figure, and they're all confident, they're beautiful, they look great, if you have a pear shape, a more exaggerated hip structure, or if you have an apple shape, more heavier on top, or if you have a straighter shape, what that does is it makes you stand out. And once you begin to see you dress for your body type and in stuff that makes you feel comfortable in any style, whichever style that you like, but it just fits you and is tailored towards you, then you begin to see, look, I'm great just the way I am, right? So in that sense, when I say body positivity, I really mean for you to come to love your body in a way where it's like, if your size, whatever size you are, you will see your uniqueness as not a deterrent, but as an asset, you know? It would be an asset and not a flaw, you know? And also, when you don't look like an ideal, right? When you don't look like an ideal, either skin-wise, culture-wise, background-wise, or weight-wise, when you don't follow a specific ideal, and when you absolutely celebrate that, it gives other people who are that same background as you permission to love themselves the way that they are, right? So for instance, as little children, we look up to what we keep seeing in front of us, right? Our first role model is usually our mother or our aunts or people that are in close proximity to us, right? So first you'll be exposed to the media, right? And at first, if you keep seeing one ideal, bone straight hair, blonde hair, or even brunette hair, you'll begin to think, look, because I do not have those attributes, then I must not be attractive. But let me get you to think of it this way, right? When you begin to embrace what you look like, flaws and all, and you begin to see things that other people would not particularly see as attractive, and you begin to celebrate those things, it then gives other people permission that have flaws that even might be different from yours to see, look, she has crooked teeth, but she's working it, right? She has a very she has natural hair, but she loves it, right? She celebrates it, right? Or what else? She's a pear shape, she's an apple shape, she's bone straight, but she appreciates herself and she flaunts herself like she thinks she's just good, she's great, right? You know? So then what I would like you to see is that when you who do not have an ideal look begin to embrace yourself, it makes somebody, even if it's different culture than what you look like, be able to see, look, she does not look like the status quo, but it gives them permission to then celebrate who they are, right? My mission for my YouTube channel and for any platform that I'm on is to get people to see that you do not have to follow a particular ideal to appreciate who you are, you know? You don't have to follow a particular ideal, you know? And I feel like we miss the point when everything is always like, you have to look like the status quo, right? you have to look like the status quo. For instance, when you see a bunch of girls lined up in one line, right, and they all look alike, it gets boring after a while, right? It just does get boring. And then you see one short black girl or one short Spanish girl, she adds a variety to the bunch, you know. Or if you see a white girl and she has orange hair, like carrot top or red hair, it changes the bunch, you know, because she's not just blonde, or she's just not brunette, or she's not one thing from the other 15, you know. So a lot of times being unique could be seen as very negative, especially when you're growing up teenager wise. Being from a different culture could be seen as negative because everybody wants to fit in, right? But your job here is not to fit in. Your job is to celebrate yourself in whatever package you come in, right? And while I do appreciate the body positivity movement, I do encourage you to look and be your best, right? And what would that look like? Is it would look like what being your best would mean to you, right? For instance, if you're a size 34, 24, I would take it that you would have to begin to work on your weight, right? And while you're working on your weight, you would love yourself every step of the way, right? The goal is not to hate yourself into becoming what you want. It's to love yourself into evolving into the person that you want to be, right? So the thing where you're trying to lose 10 pounds and every time the scale keeps going up, it's like you're bashing yourself. We would not be talking about that, right? We'll talk about people, you celebrating yourself at every stage as you are, right? And the next thing is that develop thick skin, right? Develop thick skin, but thick skin like people are making fun of you because you look different, but thick skin in that you must begin to cocoon your mindset, right? And what I mean by this is that you need to become your own best friend, as in what you think about your differences of appearance, the uniqueness of how you look like, especially weight wise, culture wise, race wise. You really want to cocoon your mind, right? Because if you live in certain societies, they said you're supposed to be one way and you don't follow that ideal, it could be a deterrent to your success, right? Okay, for instance, let me give myself as an example, right? Being a dark black woman, a black woman who's Haitian from a culture that is not widely understood, and not only being Haitian, what else? Being thick, being bigger. I have a lot of things you would think that they're working against me, right? So I'm going to use myself to explain this. You would think that these things work against me, right? But I have come to a place, right, where I've had to roll up my sleeves and begin to work on what I've got, you know? You only get one life. You've got to work with what you've got, you know? You got to work with what you got. You've got only this one face. You're gonna be black for the rest of your life. You're gonna be Haitian for the rest of your life. You might as well celebrate what God gave to you, right? And if anyone opposes these things in you, they say because you're a black woman, you know, you're not beautiful. Because you're Haitian, you come from a very weird culture that is very different. You have to literally come from a place where you know that, look, I'm the ish, right? I'm the ish, right? I'm a black woman, I'm dark, I'm Haitian, and not only am I Haitian, but I'm thick, I'm very thick, I'm big, right? But if you work on these attributes enough, and I have a pear shape, right? So I don't have the standard hourglass shape, right? I'm a pear shaped woman. So you have to take what people would tell you, look, you're not size 0, and you're not tall, and you're not blonde, and you're not white, and you're not American, and you're not from this island, or you're not Jamaican, or you're not Spanish, or you're not from a readily accepted culture, and because of this you're less than, or you're not worth it, right? You have to take everything people will say is a flaw, and you have to flip it and turn it into an asset, right? Because when you think about it, it actually is an asset, you know? It's an asset in that when people don't know about Haitian culture, you get to tell them, look, I'm from Haiti, and because of the pride that you carry, you educate them. And not only educate them, you might actually get people to love a certain aspect of who you are, or the culture, or black women, because of how much you love who you are, right? For instance, sometimes I feel like, especially because I listen to like this channel called Chloe underscore, and she does stuff with hypergamy. I also listen to Shira71. I love stuff that has to do with self-improvement. And I'll also list down below all the channels I like for self-improvement. I also listen to Alex Heyne. He's like a Haitian, he's part Haitian, but he does stuff with like the monk, the magnificent, something with monk, and it has to do with health. I will put that down in the description. But when you keep bombarding your mind with thoughts, look, I'm worth it, you know, I'm a black woman, and it's not despite that I'm a black woman I'm worth it, is because I'm a black woman I'm worth it, right? Because my uniqueness is not a flaw, it's an asset, you know. It is always an asset when you're different, because you get to show people who might not think, look, being a black woman is not attractive. You get to show them, look, black women are not only attractive, they're drop dead gorgeous, right? So if you come from a culture, it's not like the ideal here, it's not white, which is the ideal, it's not blonde, it's not like 5'6" or 6 feet. You get to show people, look, I'm not 6 feet, but I love every inch of my 5'4" stature, right? The reason why I have such great self-esteem in a lot of areas is because I saw women who did not look like the ideal model for me, that it's not only okay not to look like the ideal, I actually celebrate myself, I think highly of myself. And not only do I think highly of myself, people that might not regularly gravitate to people who are, I don't know, who are bigger, who are thick, or who are dark, who are black, who are, what you must call it, who are pear-shaped, they want that perfect hourglass shape. Or people that are Haitian, they might think, look, I don't understand that culture, I don't like that culture. But if you love yourself and your self-love overflows, it'll begin to cause people who that readily gravitate towards those attributes to begin to even admire and even begin to consider those attributes as assets, just like you do, you know. So for this video, I feel like it was kind of more explain to you this concept, but I'm gonna use an anecdote, right? I'm gonna use an anecdote so that you can get what I mean, right? You can get what I mean when I say body love encompasses all aspects of your body, right? And body love, although it means you accept yourself, right, it also leaves room for improvement, right? So that means if you're a dark black woman and you have blemishes on your skin, it's okay to find skincare that evens out the skin tone, right? Not lightens it, unless, hey, that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, right? But evens the skin tone, that's not a crime, right? And if you're overweight and you want to get like slimmer, the body love aspect wouldn't be like your body positive, why are you losing weight? It wouldn't be like that, you know. It would always go forth to the improvement that you want for yourself, right? It would always go in the direction of what you want to do, right? As far as you feel like you're improving yourself, right? So then this anecdote would be like, when I was growing up, a lot of times, being Haitian, I'm never go with being Haitian. Being Haitian was seen as something, it wasn't a good thing, right? Especially in the early 90s, it was seen as, because, so for instance, let me go with the aspect of being Haitian, right? So growing up in the 90s, because of certain things going on with the Haitian government, Haitians had to leave Haiti in mass influx during the late 80s and early 90s in mass groves, right? They were just exiting, like they were exiting in numbers, record numbers that people had never seen before, right? There's a term boat people, where they would go out of boat because there was a humanitarian crisis that was going on with baby doc he was a dictator, and he was part of a family reign of his father reigned. He was a dictator over Haiti for several years, right? I will look it up and I'll put it down in the description so you will understand what was going on at that time, right? So during that time, his father, Papa Doc, and him, Baby Doc, the father, when he entered into Haiti, he came like he was just gonna be another president, right? He paid off people, and he came as though that he was like a dove, like a sheep. But when he established himself in power, when he became president, he all of a sudden switched sides. He flipped his tune and said, look, today I declare myself president for life. And that's what happened. He came into power, and then he did a dictatorship that lasted several years. And after he died, his son took over, and he would have continued controlling Haiti had he not been exiled, right? So during that time, I'm gonna keep an objective standpoint from this, because there's a lot of people who say that that dictatorship was good, which is many members of my family, so I'm a little bit biased towards that way. But there's many people that would say that it was not a good dictatorship, that there was a lot of corruption going on, right? So while being Haitian, I will have to say that I've come from a country that it is always unstable, in that there's a lot of violence. It's very it's a very violent place, and from what you keep seeing on the news, you can tell that it goes with heavy corruption. It's just, this place is not really peaceful, right? Peace is not something that you would say you would go with Haiti and be like, Haiti and peace. They don't usually go together, right? And I'm gonna be very honest and to the point. It's not a peaceful country, right? Although I would want that for it, right? So then, to get back to what I'm saying, in the late 88, I want to say Baby Doc was exiled, right? And then there was a whole bunch of things where people would, more presidents were trying to get into power, and there was a lot of instability, a lot of things going on at that time that caused Haitians to leave at mass exodus. They just had to get out, right? Because it was becoming dangerous. There was a lot of embargoes going on, trade was stopping, there was a lot of violence. And just to give you why they were leaving, is that when the whole dictatorship of Baby Doc and Papa Doc, they closed off Haiti, where if you wanted to leave, I want to say that from what I heard, you had to get like a type of permission, right? You couldn't leave at will. Like, it was very unheard of before 88, before the father and the son, that people would leave Haiti, because it was not easy to leave there, right? And some people would say that the reason is because Haiti was really safe during that dictatorship. They did not want to leave, right? Those people would include my grandmother. She was heavily in favor of that dictatorship, right? So what was going on in 1988 is that Baby Doc was exiled, and as a result, there was upheaval going on throughout Haiti, right? There was no peace, there was violence, and people just wanted to get the hell out, right? Because it became just a dangerous place to be, right? They just wanted to get the hell out, right? So during the 90s, 88, 80s, like mid-90s, Haitians was leaving, and they would just had to go. They did not want to stay because there's a bunch of stuff going on. It's dangerous, and there was no place to raise children, right? So then when they left, what would happen is that xenophobia would take place, because with xenophobia, it's like this new culture is coming in that for a long time you would never know that Haitians existed, because they were always in Haiti, right? Because they had no reason to get out. It was under strict, it was very closed off to people traveling, right? So during this time, people were just getting introduced to Haitian people, and they had a lot of things about their culture. It just seemed really odd, right? For instance, they have a language, it seems more prone towards being African, French African, whereas they're surrounded by areas that's more Spanish, English, and those type of languages, right? So that you have the language barrier, that they're speaking something, it sounds very African, they don't readily understand what they're saying, right? That's one thing. Then you have the aspect that Haitians, for most part, they have parts of their culture that is not really understood, especially during those times when they were coming in. you weren't really introduced to the culture because they hadn't really established themselves yet, right? They were fleeing persecution and they were trying to get established, right? So you didn't know much about this culture. Is that they would just have very strange food, they have very strange language, and they would wear strange things because you didn't understand what they meant, right? For instance, when I was in grade school, I would wear like the French bows on my hair a lot, right? I would wear the bulgogo, I would wear the baguette, I would wear things that the French dress, which is like a pleated dress, and I have several copies of that dress in like very different colors. I have it in flower, like my mom would buy that dress, like she would have multiple copies. She would have blue, like it's like this cute little frilly dress, and it looks like what little, like if you ever seen Heidi, like those German dresses, those French dresses, if you've seen Heidi, you would see it's like a cute little dress, but we wear it all the time, especially in church, right? So when you don't understand that, you would go to class, especially when you were younger, and people would just be like taunting you mercilessly because they don't understand that you're coming from a culture with stuff like that. Especially when you're in school, you always have to be in uniform, right? Because even till today, like if you go to Haiti, most of the schools have a uniform. That's how you distinguish which school it is, right? If you see a certain uniform, that would tell you they come from this school, right? Every school must have a mandated uniform. It's very organized in that sense. And they wear those bows and the bulgogo and the baguette and the little colorful things. But if you're coming from a culture where you don't know that, or you coming in a society they don't know that, they'll see that as we don't understand that, and they'll be kind of, they were very not accepting, right? Whenever they would say Haitian, they would say very bad things about Haitian people because they didn't know any better, right? They were ignorant and they didn't know any better, right? But after a while, an interesting thing began to start to happen is once the Haitian community began to establish, right, people begin to understand, oh, okay, they do those things because that's their culture, right? They do those things because that's what they do. It's just a normal part of the thing. But I can't even blame people that would readily discriminate like that because they just don't understand the culture, right? They don't understand why certain things are done, right? So because they were not, like, they don't know, they think, okay, this is strange. Why do you speak like that? What does that mean? Now, if you look for today, people will be like, oh, you're Haitian, or you do this and this. They'll readily be recognizing, okay, because there's certain they have established themselves within the Flatbush community, right? Especially around the area that I live, like they basically have a strong presence there, right? Where people who were not used to them before, that had already established, they'd be like, oh, we don't understand them, so as a result we're gonna make fun or do something that because we don't understand them, right? But let me go even further and say that the reason I have such a pride for my culture is that even in the early 90s, right, I would be steeped in American culture. Like, I would love watching Buffy, Vampire Slayer. I would love watching, all those American sitcoms, right? Because 90s TV is not like today's TV. It was so good, right? You would have Fresh Prince, you would have Family Matters, you would have all these really great sitcoms. But what would happen during that time, especially when I was like 10, 11, 12, all those years, is that one day my mom, she would tell us, she would buy tapes, right? She would buy these tapes and they would be of carnivals from Haiti, right? And one thing you must know is that my parents, they don't speak English with me when we're at home, right? We could speak English when we're outside. We don't really speak English, at least to them, when we're inside, right? They're more comfortable with Creole, so I have to make sure I speak Creole to them so that they could, I don't know, they're more comfortable with that, right? So then my mom, she would bring this carnival tape, and she would buy a lot of tapes, right? And what she would do is that we would be watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she would put the VHS on tape of Carnival 98 and all these things from Haiti, all these tapes from Haiti, all this music from Haiti. And the reason why I know all this background information is because she was like, no, you guys have to know about your culture, right? Because my culture is a great culture and you guys just have to know about it, right? So we would be watching Buffy, and we would be watching like like stuff with American culture, and she would just interrupt her and say, put the tape on, and we would have to be forced to watch Carnival 98 religiously, right? We would have to be forced to listen to old French songs, Fouet Parent, Rigaud Duvalier, all these artists, and she would just keep repeating it over and over and over and over again, right? So the interesting thing that happened is that over time, after she kept doing that, what would happen is that we would begin to ask for her to put the tapes on, because, you know, as that proverb says, Proverbs 22 verse 6, train a child in a way that they should go, and when they grow up, they will not depart from it, right? My mom was very smart in that area, right? My parents were very smart in that area, is in that they kept speaking Creole to us, and not only did they speak Creole to us religiously, they just kept putting their culture in everything that we did, so that there was one time where Buffy would be playing. There came a time where Buffy would keep playing, and one time we asked her, let's put on the carnival, because she had built a love for her culture within us, right? She built a love for the music back home within us, right? So because of her, I became very prideful of being Haitian, right? And then what actually eventually ended up happening is that the more the Haitian artists begin to get established in New York, Boston, and all the American cultures, because now they had to cater to the new population that was beginning to take over these areas, people were beginning to readily be introduced to what Haitian culture was. It was no longer like this closed up culture where they were secluded and we didn't know what they were doing. Now restaurants were beginning to establish themselves, and people would begin to eat from things. They would begin to buy from Haitian stores music. They would begin to get relatively exposure. In Eastern Parkway, bands would begin to have their own float where they would take over, where they would show you, look, not only take over, they would show the Haitian culture to a point where other people now, if you say Haitian, people are like, oh, that's a cool culture, because now they understand it. But when you see you being different as like a flaw, what you're missing the point is that being different could actually be an asset, you know? Okay, and I saw this comment on a post about, in Chloe's post, Chloe underscore, about black women in hypergamy, right? And hypergamy, right? So one of the comments said that, and I'm gonna end with this because I thought that was such a cool quote. Like, most of the time, black women are put in a way that they have to be strong all the time, right? Not only do they have to be strong, but they always have to be the face of superwoman, super strength, and they lack no emotion, right? But what this actually does, it makes you into a cardboard box, right? Where you're just a person, you have no emotion, and you're very strong, and everything you do, it's just strength. You never have a downtime. You never have an instance where you have your weaknesses, right? You're always the face of strength. So what this channel Chloe underscore does is that it shows you black women being feminine, black women being rich, black women in luxury, things that you would not readily associate with black women, dark black women, women of all aspects of Africa, and even in the diaspora, right? So when the comment said that when you see a black woman that's feminine, she's living in luxury, it's a double advantage, because number one, you're not used to black women always being in luxury, always being feminine, always having high class. You're used to one aspect, right? So it's interesting spin, because people are expecting one thing and what they're getting is something completely different, right? It's like watching the Cosby shows or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? A lot of times, and even family members, right? Because family matters, I mean. Because a lot of people expect, when they see black families or black women, or they always see one aspect. But these shows and these ideas, they introduce a new way of being, right? And they're inspiring because they show you there's different aspects of each race, right? Each race has different aspects, right? And I would implore you that I'm gonna keep introducing African films to you guys so that you guys can even be more introduced to it, right? Because in African films, what I love is that there's no stereotypical typecasting. Like a black person could be anything that they want in African cinema, right? They could be the doctor, they could be the lawyer, they could be anything that they're so pleased. They could be the damsel, they could be the evil sister. It's like they're not limited to the roles that they have. And because of this, it opens you up to seeing not only blacks in certain ways, but black women in different aspects, you know? And so my final point would be that when you look different from the status quo, use this to your advantage, right? Use this difference, use this cultural difference, this color difference, the color of your skin difference, use this cultural difference, this language difference, use the height difference, the weight difference, the body difference. Use it not, okay, I'm different and so it's not good, I'm gonna exclude myself, I'm bad, it's a bad thing. Use the difference as though it's an asset, as though it's being unique. And not only is it unique, that if you begin to love every single thing about your body, everything about your culture, I guarantee you, people function. How this works in your favor is that, and I'm going to use this last example, is that when you love yourself, it inspires other people to be their best self too. And it also inspires people to love you even more, like, right? I don't know, like the adage says, misery love company. But people that love themselves, they attract people that love themselves also. It just I always see that. People that feel like they're the ish, people that feel like they're great just as they are, they attract, for the most part, people that think the same mindset, right? Usually when you see a whole bunch of rich billionaires, they usually are hanging out with each other discussing how to make more money, right? And when you see people that are more impoverished, they usually stay in areas where they're always being more impoverished, right? Unless they break that mold, right? Unless they overcome that mold, right? So then last thing is that, and I'm going to show you how this, and I'm going to finish with this, is that when I was in one of my classes, right? I always tell you guys I love to observe people. I love people watching. It's so cool. There was this young person that she would just keep passing by, right? And at first I'm like, okay, she's passing by. That's great. But I was keep on observing this person's movement, right? All I have to tell you about this person is that there's something about the way that they move. They ooze self-love, right? For instance, this person, she was in my anthropology class, I think. Yeah, she was in my anthropology class, right? I think she was one of those olive races, like Muslim or one of those people, right? The dark-haired people. She was tall. And the way she moved is that she moved like she loved herself. She moved with confidence. She loved herself. The way she acted was somebody who knew who they were. But to me, when I'm looking at her the first time, I'd be like, okay, she just looks like a normal person to me. In fact, I actually thought this person looked kind of old. I actually thought they looked old, and I just kept using that as an excuse. But the more I kept paying attention to their movement, I became intrigued by this person. Because this person, though they did not look like the status quo, they didn't have that bone straight hair, they weren't that ideal look, right? That ideal white, blonde, 6 feet, or short but brunette, but that ideal look. But this, in spite of the look, nobody gave her the memo that, look, I'm not white. Nobody gave her the memo, look, you're not supposed to feel that good about when you don't fit the status quo. This girl moved as though she knew she was it, right? And because of that, I was like, you know what? Being different, whatever area that is, being different isn't actually a unique, being different is actually an asset, right? Because if you're looking at a bunch of white diamonds and then there's a blue sapphire and it's like, it's gorgeous, it'll pop out right at you. You wouldn't say because it's blue and it's not like white, like it's bad. You would say, damn, that's a beautiful rock because it stands out. The others would be beautiful too, but it would stand out because it's a perfect blue sapphire, and it stands out among the rest. So a lot of time I see that in this society, especially when you're a teenager, you just want to sink in, right? You just want to go into your body. You don't want to show off. But if you want to stand out and really get above the mold, get used to your differences, and not only get used to them, roll up your sleeve and start working on what the things that you feel that you're deficit in, right? Get to improving the things you feel you need to improve, whether, I don't know, if it's your look or if it's the weight or I don't know, your mindset, the aspect of self-love. One of the greatest gifts I want is to love myself unconditionally, and not only unconditionally, to love myself at 100,000%, right? To where I'm full to the brim with self-love, so that I could begin to pour into other people, right? That is the greatest gift, to be able to love yourself for who you are, you know, to accept yourself just as you are, right? So you guys, that was a long video, right? But I really enjoyed this topic. I did not know it would get this far, but I enjoyed this topic thoroughly, right? And I really hope those people that think because you're different that it's a bad thing, I'm here to tell you, because you're different, celebrate it, work with it. Girl, you need to work it, right? Or guy, whatever you are, work with what you got, and not only work with what you got, celebrate it, decorate it, work around it, go around it, and embellish it, right? Glow. I need you guys to go out there and to glow, right? Do your best and do your thing, right? So then, that's my video for today. My name is Heyne. I hope you guys have a great day. It is Friday morning. It's looking gorgeous, a little undercast. You guys, have a great day, you guys.